the past few years, Marvel has been completely in the toilet, and it's looking as though the toilet is where it's going to remain if even their CEO, Bob Iger, can't figure out where they're going wrong. They just can't do it. Yet again, we have the same old cope that the reason why Marvel is currently failing and losing its audience completely is because, there's too much TV shows and there's too many films. That's apparently where the problem lies. It's got nothing to do with that you have been consistently shit for at least 3 years now. That has nothing to do with it. So that seems to be Bob Iger's take, that it all comes down to, it's just too much of it. There's just too much of it. Again, the CEO of Disney, who has recently extended his contract through to 2026, so if you were expecting any change at Marvel, that change is never going to come if you even have the CEO not grasping what the problem is. And that's just, you have lots and lots and lots of shows and movies, and every single one of them is shit. That's the biggest issue that Disney faces. Everything they put out is some of the most terrible stuff you could imagine. But I suppose we'll see how Bob Iger has come to this wrong realization. But Disney CEO Bob Iger is citing the studio's output increase for Disney Plus as one reason for some, they call it disappointments. I'd rather call it disasters. Speaking to CNBC's David Faber at the Sun Valley Conference, Iger admitted the studio screwed with audience expectations by offering up so much streaming content, and all of it is, again, some of the most terrible stuff you could imagine. The negative impact of that has been commercial disappointments in theaters, be it Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, not even reaching 500 million worldwide, or disappointing openings for summer tentpoles Elemental and Indiana Jones 5, which is looking like it's going to lose at least a couple of $100 million. You know, that's where Disney is at. There have been some disappointments, no, it's disasters. We would have liked some of our more recent releases to perform better. I mean, you should have tried harder then, shouldn't you? It's reflective, not as a problem. So this is where the biggest issue lies. He says it's reflective, not as a problem from a personnel perspective, meaning the problem isn't the people they hire. When that's exactly what the problem is. The problem is you are hiring people that are not up to the task, that are not good writers, and they're currently at this moment trying to get more money, which is just baffling to me. But that is where the problem lies. You are not hiring talent. You're hiring people that are cheap. That's the people you're hiring. So the way to solve that is get rid of them and get people that are talented. I suppose the only problem that lies in your path is the fact that the talented people don't want nothing to do with you, because it's a dead end. It is a dead end currently looking at the state of the MCU. So why would they want to join, your little shitty company? I don't know. But that's apparently, it's got nothing to do with the people that are being hired that are just not good. They're not good. That's what the problem is. But it just seems to be more and more, it just gets put to, now we've just put out too much stuff. So what they're gonna do, apparently, is pulling back on making Marvel and Star Wars content. Which, again, it doesn't matter if you do that, if the stuff's still shit. Nobody's gonna sign up to Disney Plus. That's not gonna happen. Because the stuff has to be good. So I would advise, pull back on making all this shit and take your time until you get something to an actual, acceptable standard. But it's pretty obvious that, it's very obvious that the CEOs of these studios do not watch any of this content. Whereas if they did, they would realize the problem instantly. If they weren't complete idiots. All I'm telling you, Bob, watch a couple of episodes of She-Hulk and you go, oh, it's really boring and it's really shitly put together. That's what the problem is. We need to get some talent here at Disney. But talent costs a bit too much. And at the moment, with all these massive flops, you probably can't afford it. So that's probably why. But yeah, it's not a problem from a personnel perspective. You know, it's not a problem that we've still got Kathleen Kennedy running Lucasfilm, even with the amount of flops that she's now caused. She's still over there, Bob. But no, she's not the problem. But I think in our zeal to basically grow our content significantly, to serve mostly our streaming offerings, we ended up taxing our people way beyond in terms of their time and their focus, way beyond where they had been. Marvel's a great example of that they had not been in the TV business at any significant level, and it shows. You know, as we've went over the recent Secret Invasion, it's very obvious at this point that Marvel don't know how to make TV. Now, on the other hand, Netflix, they actually knew how to make Marvel TV shows just using Daredevil as an example. Whereas you come to actually Disney Plus, doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's Marvel or you know, Lucasfilm, just Disney in general, they don't understand how to make TV. They still haven't got there, even though the amount of stuff they've put out. They have put out so many shows, and every single one of them is like, oh, you don't know how to make TV. And you haven't figured it out yet. They have not figured out how to pace it, anything like that, even just taking away the shitty writing. They just can't figure out how exactly to make a TV show. Which is very embarrassing at this point if you've been going this long. Not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of television series, and frankly, it diluted focus and attention. Because it was all terrible. It was all terrible, that's the problem. That is, I think, more of the cause than anything. That there's too many stuff, there's too much stuff. Which, again, if all this stuff was good, do you think anybody would be complaining or saying, oh, there's too much? No. Because it's all that matters is it good? That's all that matters. Doesn't matter how much you put out. Just, you know, it just has to be good. And nobody would be complaining about whether it's superhero fatigue, whatever, if the stuff was good. Because that's, at the end of the day, what it all comes down to. There's nothing superhero fatigue about it. It's just we've got a load of bad shit out of it. But, you know, again, it's just this mindset that continues, especially Disney, down the path they've been going. If it's just, because it's so obvious. It's so obvious what the problem is. Addressing the poor box office performance of Pixar's Elemental, Iger cited the studio's decision to put 3 Pixar movies on Disney Plus in a row during the pandemic: Soul, Luca, and Turning Red. All skipped theaters and went straight to streaming. Lightyear, that was another massive flop, and Elemental, the 2 Pixar films that exclusively opened in theaters afterwards, flopped. Because that's all your movies do now, is flop. So he goes into a lot of the Pixar stuff. I don't know if he says much else about Marvel in particular. Yeah, he does down here. So he says sequels typically work well for us. He was asked, do you need a third and a fourth, for instance? Or is it time to turn to other characters? We're talking about Disney here. There's no originality. They're not willing to take any creative risks other than risking pissing the audience off. He says there's nothing in any way inherently off in terms of the Marvel brand. There is, Bob. All your movies keep flopping. Nobody is watching your TV series. Your most recent one is down in the Ms. Marvel numbers. You've actually had to put Ms. Marvel onto ABC. You've had to put it on there because nobody's fucking watching it on Disney Plus. And you're just like, nah, there's nothing off in terms of the Marvel brand. Do you not see how people are talking about the Marvel brand? No one is talking about it in a good way. So this just sounds like you are clearly out of touch and clueless, and you're not paying any attention whatsoever on what these people that you hire are doing. I think we just have to look at what characters and stories we're mining. You know, yeah, you have been, and you haven't been providing anything substantial. And you look at the trajectory of Marvel over the next 5 years, you'll see a lot of newness. Because, new just means good, I guess. We're going to turn back to the Avengers franchise. Who have you got for that? Who have you got for the Avengers that is going to bring anyone back? You've got nobody. What, Captain Marvel? Ms. Marvel? No, that's not gonna pan out well, is it? But with a whole different set of Avengers, that will save it, you see. A whole different set of Avengers. Like who? Who is there left of any interest? Spider-Man. That's it. And even then, Sony don't seem to be wanting to work with you again. So he's not really going to show up there, is he? So that seems to be, we're turning the page. We're going to with a whole different set of Avengers. Again, who? Unless you all of a sudden go, here's a load of new characters. If your plan is we're going to take the ones that we've brought in throughout Phase 4, that's nobody's going to show up for that. It's pretty obvious the way these Avengers films, we'll be looking at the first Avengers movie to flop. I don't see an Avengers movie being able to make as much as, say, Infinity War did. In this, with what you've done with Marvel, how much damage has been done to it, again, it doesn't matter. Everybody at this point, most of us have gone, really. Most of us are, like myself, sticking around just to, watch, like, the destruction. Because it's very interesting. It's always very interesting to see something that was once up here just fall by their own hand. Because that's who's caused it, Marvel. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. But again, it's just, you're the CEO of Disney. You can't figure out where you're going wrong when you should. You should be able to figure that out. But you just can't. And it's, it's quite, again, funny to watch. You just think, well, what we got to do is stop putting as much stuff out. When it's just like, how about you stop putting as much stuff out and just spend the time that you need in order to make something good and worthwhile? But, as I say, at this point, you've kind of lost that now. You've lost that opportunity. That you're never going to get that opportunity based on the slate that we have upcoming. It's already too late. There is already too many things in the sludge pipeline. So, by the time you want to make any change whatsoever, nobody's going to be interested anymore.